What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Trail Tales, the podcast where every single week, except for last week because it was Christmas, I, Kyle O'Grady, a thru hiker and peak bagger, chat with other thru hikers and other peak baggers and other hiking nerds like myself about their experiences on the trail. First of all, Happy New Year 2020. It's going to be a great year for Trail Tales and just for everybody, everything in general. I'm feeling optimistic about 2020. I'm also optimistic that you are gonna enjoy this week's episode. Great transition there, huh? Jeremiah Stringer is on the show. If you're not familiar with Jeremiah Stringer, he is a YouTuber, a backpacker. He makes some great videos. As a lot of you might know, I've been doing YouTube videos the last couple months now, and that's kind of how I stumbled into him and saw his stuff. And he completed the Vermont Long Trail over this past summer, and so that's kind of what we talk about for most of this episode. We also talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff of like running a backpacking YouTube channel, and we kind of just goof around, honestly. It was a great time. This dude is hilarious. His accent is hilarious, and I mean that in the best way possible. It was just a great time. So Jeremiah Stringer, dude, when you hear this, I know I'm literally texting you right now about how we're gonna do another one soon. So thank you very much for coming on, and yeah. During my last episode, I made a call for you guys to leave some more iTunes reviews, and I gotta say, you guys pulled through big time, so I'm gonna read a couple iTunes reviews real quick here. If you want to help support the show, be sure to leave a 5-star iTunes review, or just a 5-star review on whatever your podcast platform is. It would be much appreciated, and I will read it. So this is probably the best review I've ever gotten. It says, "Dope, enough said." That's it. Drop the mic. I can't really drop the mic because it's on a stand, but yeah, that's a fantastic review. Let's read one more. This one's from Sunny from Wake County. I'll be honest, I do not know where Wake County is, but it says, "Relaxingly entertaining. Love getting my trail runs in while listening. I really like how the podcast is so casual and real." That's right. I thru hiked in 2008, and I can still relate to most of what y'all are talking about 11 years later. You bring a good hiker attitude to the pod, and I feel like a friend when I listen. I actually summited Katahdin on the same day as Philip Karsha in 2008 on September 11th. That is pretty cool. So hearing him tell his story on your pod was awesome. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for that review, Mr. Sunny from Wake County. Other plugs real quick. Instagram @TrailTalesPod. Email, send me an email. I got a couple emails over the last few weeks, which was really, really cool. I love the emails. trailtalespod@gmail.com. Go give me some feedback there. Facebook, Trail Tales on Facebook as well. And the Patreon. I know you all are just dying to give me your hard-earned money, so there's a way to do that. Patreon.com/trailtales. You'll get some bonus content every single month, and it would be a good time. Help support the show. It is awesome. Link in the show notes and patreon.com/trailtales. Last thing, I gotta say, the YouTube plug. Kyle Hates Hiking on YouTube. I love making YouTube videos. It's so much fun. The editing is way more fun than editing this podcast, if I'm just gonna be real. So if you want to go see my really cringy thumbnails and some of my nonsense on YouTube, yeah, Kyle Hates Hiking on YouTube. I will also have a link to that in the show notes. With that said, let's get into the episode with Jeremiah Stringer, Long Trail Class of 2019. That was pretty good. That was. I'll be able to confirm once I look back and start editing, but that sounded pretty good. What's going on, everybody? Crispy, yeah, just like this crispy Busch Light I'm drinking. Yeah. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Trail Tales. This is going to be a fun episode. I say that pretty much every episode, but I am especially excited for this one because we're going to be talking about the long trail. I get to talk about Vermont. I get to talk about like my quote home trail today, and I'm just very excited about that. Jeremiah Stringer is on the line. What's going on, man? Thanks so much for taking the time today.
Well, what's going on, dude? How's it going?
It's going good. This is sweet for everybody listening. This was one of the quickest turnarounds I've ever had for an episode like this. I like hit you up just a couple days ago, and no scheduling difficulties, nothing, no rescheduling, nothing. Just we were able to make it happen, and here we are. So yeah, dude, this is going to be a lot of fun. I wanted to have you on the show for three different reasons. First reason is I was going through this stuff in my head before, so I got to get it out there. The first reason is, again, long trail, and obviously you hiked the long trail this past summer, and you've been putting out some videos about it, and so we're going to talk a lot about that today. So that was the first reason. Second reason was because just from watching your YouTube videos, and I'll give you a chance to plug all that stuff in just a second, I was like, okay, this guy seems pretty chill. I think we're going to get along pretty good. Yeah. And then the third reason, and arguably the most important reason, was because, dude, that accent, I gotta have that accent on the show. As soon as I heard it, I was this guy needs to be on the show. So with that said, now that I'm hyping your shit up, why don't you go ahead and, just tell everybody who you are, what you've hiked, and, give that accent a chance to shine.
All right, man, I'll do my best. Restless Outdoors keeps telling me it's fake every time I talk to him. He's like, oh, got that old fake Kentucky accent. So, dude, let me tell you this. I hiked the Vermont Long Trail, and I filmed it all and stuff, but every time I would go somewhere, anywhere, you could pick, throw a dart on the map there. They'd be like, you're not from around here, are you? I'd be like, no, ma'am, I'm not.
So good.
But yeah, my experience started October 2018, or no, take that back. June, I believe, of 2018. And then I kind of just kept backpacking after that. I'd never backpacked before, never even heard of it. My father-in-law asked me if I wanted to go, and then I kept going. And then October, it rolled around of 2018. I was like, I'm watching a lot of people doing backpacking videos. I think I want to do that. And so I did, and it's been over a year since then from the time that we're recording, and it's going from there. Made a lot of great relationships and get to hang out with a lot of cool people all the time.
Yeah, man.
I mean, there's no other community like backpacking community.
Absolutely. And so it sounds like it sounds like hiking and videos, YouTube, they almost came up hand in hand for you. It wasn't like you started hiking first and then you started, years later, doing videos. It seems like the two kind of happened at the same time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because what I wanted to do whenever I started doing these videos is I was like, I don't want anything to be fake, and I'm growing, and I don't want anybody to think, hey, this guy's an expert on this, or his opinion is more important than this person's or less important than this person's. I just wanted to kind of document my evolution of as I grew in the quote unquote sport of backpacking, or whatever you want to call it. And I was just so passionate. I was like, I gotta get a way to share this passion with other people, because here in Kentucky, we have one main trail, and it's the Sheltowee Trace, and it's not super popular. So you don't have that tight knit community or that group, or wherever you meet people, the Facebook groups or whatever, to go backpacking with. And so that was kind of my creative outlet. And then, got hooked up with other people.
So one thing that I find super fascinating there is just that hiking and filmmaking now are just going to be so intertwined for you. And honestly, it kind of brings me back to an episode I did with Syntax77, who I'm sure you're familiar with. He has pretty much filmed every single hike he's ever gone on, or that's what he said anyways. And that just kind of makes me think, because for myself and for most of my other previous guests, it's we all started hiking before any sort of content or anything else, photography, videos, whatever it is, came into play. But with yourself and with Syntax, again, that's just not the case. So I'm wondering, I know you haven't been doing it as long as he has, obviously, but actually I guess I could ask you this. Have you done any hikes or backpacking trips without filming yet?
Yeah, I mean, my very first backpacking trip, all I did was take pictures because I'd never heard of backpacking, and that's where I met the thru hikers and that kind of stuff. And I
Hmm.
didn't really see any of them out of everybody I met. Like none of them was doing anything to do with filming. There was just one guy that had a GoPro that he used to like take pictures and take little clips and stuff, but he wasn't like a YouTuber or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, from there, I that was June up through October. Each trip that I did, and I think I'd done a few overnighters, and I was getting my feet wet. I didn't film anything, and then I started filming everything. I did another through hike of the JMT in Tennessee. It's like the baby John Marr Trail,
Interesting.
and yeah, it's totally not as good, but it was still fun.
I've never even heard of that. What is it called again?
It's the JMT, just like the one out west, but it's in Big South Fork, Tennessee. So it's like
So
40
it's
or 50
literally the
miles.
John Muir Trail, but it's in Tennessee instead. I don't know if the abbreviation was something else or if it literally standed for John Muir Trail too. That's damn. I've like never
It's
even heard of
odd.
that before.
But I did like I was filming everything, and then you're kind of drinking through a water hose, like a fire hose, because you're not only learning to backpack, but you're also filming all of it, and then
Yeah,
you're
dude.
learning, new editing software and that kind of stuff. So it's a lot. So I got to the point where, especially when I try to do a video a day through last December, I was like, this is a little overwhelming. And then, I did a bunch of other trips and through hiked the Foothills Trail. And then there's one point where I was like, I think I have enough stuff built up. And I was trying to do a video a week at that point that I was like, I can take this next trip and not film a single thing. And I bet this is going to be cool. And it was. It was.
Mhm. Nice, man. Dude, that's a lot of content. And like what you just said there, kind of figuring out how to backpack and how to make videos and filmmaking and all this stuff, that is like pretty crazy because as everybody listening to this knows, like there's a huge learning curve just with backpacking. And something I can relate to there, because I've been like doing the YouTube thing or whatever you want to call it for like the past month and a half now. There's a huge learning curve there as well. So just the fact that you're doing both of those at the same time, like that's tough, dude. And like good for you for like sticking with it like that, dude.
Thanks. Yeah.
That's incredible.
I only got a lot of gray hair now.
Let me ask you this: what learning curve would you say was more difficult? The filmmaking, and let's incorporate every aspect. So on trail, off trail, editing, the technical stuff, all that. What was more difficult, the learning curve for filmmaking or the learning curve for just learning? The learning curve for learning that doesn't the learning curve of backpacking.
It kind of depended on the skill level that you had to have to do each specific trail that I did.
Okay.
But most of the time, it was the filmmaking aspect was harder. And then whenever I done the long trail, there were some days where I didn't pull the camera out. Period.
Oh,
I was just
really?
like, I have to make it through this next 22 miles, or I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I don't have time to film. I just got to survive. Survive.
It's a tough
in
trail,
advance.
yeah. It's a tough trail for sure. We're gonna get to that in just a second. You mentioned that you also through hiked the Foothills Trail, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw
that
one of
was a good one.
those videos. So I actually did the Foothills Trail this past late spring, early summer, and it was freaking amazing. I just had to say that is a beautiful. It's like this.
Was the water running?
The water was there's plenty of water, dude. It was like perfect weather, like literally perfect conditions the entire time, which is probably why I look back on it so fondly. But it was,
Those waterfalls, though.
dude, so fucking good. And like
Yeah.
in the bridges, there's like a bridge every half mile on that trail.
Yeah.
And
You're
not just
right.
like a shitty like log like over a river like you'll see on like the AT and the long trail sometimes, but like legit like nice well built bridges with like handrails and all this stuff in spots where you don't even really need them half the time. I feel like
And
that's
some of them are huge. Like, let me cover the span of this entire river where it has a waterfall above it,
Dude,
and
it's
make
crazy.
150 foot long bridge. It's great.
the trail maintenance or the trail work on that trail is pretty unreal.
Oh, they're dedicated.
Oh, dude, for sure. Everybody should go listen to my Foothills Trail episode, which I do not remember, which 20 something. You can find it if you really want to. I actually have a video of that of my hike on that trail too. It's like one of the only trail videos I have right now. Which funny story. So this might work for kind of a segue here. So I shot this Foothills Trail video, like I said, it was back in like end of April, beginning of May. It was like I was out there when the months flipped. Anyways, I shot this video, like shot the entire hike, and then I was just like too like intimidated almost / lazy to actually put up the video or even edit the video until like the end of October. So when you first started, yeah, dude, isn't that ridiculous? When you first started doing videos, did you feel like intimidated like that or nervous all in front of the camera? I'm sure you got better with that as you went along, but yeah, how did it feel at first, kind of just being in front of the camera like that?
It's a little bit weird. I'm a pretty good public speaker, I think, because for the past 5 years I've been a teacher. So you get a group of people that you're complete strangers with, and you have to teach them things that they could care less about. So you're energetic and you just want to have fun and let your passion shine. Yeah. And so that's what I tried to do. But going back and watching some of the beginning videos, the camera presence, it's a lot less. And I'm sure I'll say, if I kept doing this for 5 years and I look back at a video that I filmed today, I'd be like, man, I would change this. Yeah, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Definitely.
Well, that's good that you weren't like super intimidated by it. Not that I was like shaking, like so nervous, but I don't know. I just felt weird about it. And I will say that doing this podcast, because I've been doing Trail Tales since November of 2018. And so doing this podcast, and obviously I had been doing the podcast when I shot the video, but I don't know, just even since then, like having more experience with this definitely helped me a lot with like being in front of the camera. And now like I really don't have any shame when it like now I'm at the point where I'll just do something so stupid on camera and then I'll look back on it and be like, oh my God, I cannot fucking include that in the video. But when I first started I was just like afraid to even, I don't know. I'm going way off track there, dude.
You're good. It's weird though. It's weird because you're talking to people who are in the future and don't exist yet. Yeah. So you're like, you have to put things into perspective. You're trying to convey a message or tell a story or teach something to somebody that, aren't going to see it for a week or 2 weeks or however long. Yeah, for real. I really like your series that I think I commented this one time, the like the hiker news, like almost it's like you literally, for everybody listening, you should definitely go check it out. I'll have a link to his channel and all that stuff in the show notes. It's like he's a news anchor, but he just talks about like hiking shit and like other hiking YouTubers. It's so funny because it's just like I feel like I'm watching the news, but instead of hearing about like all this like bad shit, I'm hearing about like Dixie's new video. I don't know. That's what so I try to do.
It's so good. How did you get that idea? Like I don't even know.
Man, it was like probably January of this year. I was thinking about, what's better than better is different. If you're different, then that's, even if you're better than the best person at what they did, being different would let you stand out. And so I was like, how can I be different, but also have fun and let my passion shine? And I really want things to be positive because I've never met a backpacker where I was like, man, that guy's just a curmudgeon or that girl sucks. Even on
trail. You've never met me. No.
Here we are.
By the end of this, you're going to be like, yeah, I fucking take that sentence back.
Take it back. So I just thought, how cool would it be if I could grow and help other people grow too, and just promote positivity in a community where, things are for the most part positive, and then we're surrounded just in our Western culture with so much negativity because that stuff sells. It sells tickets and it sells ads and all that. So that's what I thought, and I was like, how can I make this even more parody? So I started throwing a necktie on and
dude, I love it. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, dude, that's so funny. Again, everybody should definitely go check that out. If I am so lucky. I would love to be featured in that someday. If I ever do anything worth being on like the Jeremiah Springer hiking news, that will be like when I've made it. I feel like as a hiker, like that would just be the peak.
I guarantee you this podcast is going to be on there.
Ooh, wait till we're finished before you make that promise.
Yeah, I will, yeah.
Here I am. Wow, I'm making myself sound like a huge douche. I love it, dude. I love it. Let's talk about the long trail. I'm sure I'll sprinkle in some more YouTube questions because like this stuff just fascinates me. I've got this like when I first started Trail Tales, I was like super like passionate about it, and that I'm still passionate about it, but it's like when you first start something like that, it's just a little bit different. It's like the honeymoon phase, I guess. And yeah. I'm definitely still in that honeymoon phase with the YouTube stuff, which is, again, is why I'm so excited. But anyways, before I get too deep into that stuff, the long trail. So I'm curious to know why, out of all the long distance trails that you could have, gone with, why you chose the long trail specifically, because I know you've done like a couple. Did you? I should have looked this up beforehand. Did you do the Sheltowee? Is it Sheltowee Trace? Whatever.
Yeah, Sheltowee. That's how you say it. I've only done sections of it because it runs through my home state from Moorhead, Kentucky, down into Tennessee, just the top of Tennessee. And I grew up in this Daniel Boone National Forest area, so. I got out in the Appalachian Mountains and camped a lot whenever I was growing up. And then as I got into backpacking, it's just natural that if that's the most accessible place to you, then it's close by and you're going to go there and do some trips and stuff. So
yeah, man.
I haven't done the entire thing, but Jason Wish just crushed it. And
yeah,
JK is hiking.
I got to have him on the podcast too. And honestly, I know absolutely nothing about that trail. So that would be a good one. But I'm curious why you chose the long trail instead of that trail, for instance, because with me, it's like when I first started getting into hiking, it was through the long trail. I mean, I live so close to the trail here, and I kind of stumbled into it by accident almost. I just went for a day hike, and I just happened to hit part of the long trail over Mount Mansfield. Mm-hmm. And I was like, shit, okay, well, people will hike this whole trail. And anyways, I've told that story a million times on this podcast, but that's how I got into it. And for me, naturally, the next step was, okay, well, now I'm going to try to do the whole long trail. So why, I just don't understand, based on my experience, why you went with a different trail rather than your home trail, the Sheltowee, whatever, trace trail.
The Sheltowee. I actually chose it, believe it or not. And then I guess it's divine intervention, but we have to step back in time to see the whole picture of how I chose it. So if you're cool with that,
dude, let's do it. Let's step back.
All right. So if you flash back to my very first backpacking trip, I met these thru hikers, and then I hung out with them. I actually went with my in-laws, and my father-in-law and his brother and his brother's son. Or his cousin, rather, and his cousin's son. And then they're really cool, but these thru hikers were really cool too. And so I started like hiking with them, and they kind of slept at the same shelters as us. And I discovered what thru hiking was, because literally had never heard of it, or if I had, it didn't stick. Mm-hmm. And one of them was this guy named Frankie. And I remember he saw us getting out of the vehicle, and we were doing 10 miles up from Fontana Dam on the Appalachian Trail.
Okay.
And we made it to the shelter after dark, and he got up out of bed and helped us. And flash forward 4 days later, I was hanging out with him in Gatlinburg and a bunch of other thru hikers. And I was showing them around the town because, again, I'm from Appalachian Mountains, so Smokies is right there too. And, I showed them, hung out with them, and then out of the blue, he texted me like, I don't know, I'm a school teacher, so in Kentucky, we get out mid-May, beginning of June, depending on how many snow days we have.
Okay.
And so we were getting out of school, I think he texted me like a Tuesday, and we were getting out of school not that Friday, but the following Friday. And he was like, you got any plans for the summer? Just out of the blue. Hadn't talked to him in months. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to hike the Sheltowee Trace. It's here close to home, and my wife, she can kind of come support me, and if I want to come home, I can and edit videos. He's like, that sounds cool, man, but you should do the Vermont Long Trail with me. And I was like, what's... Yeah. He's from Boston, so okay. I guess where he's closer geographically, it's a lot more well known. And I was like, well, I don't know, man. I never heard of that trail, and that's really far from me, and I don't know how I get there because Kentucky is hours and hours away. Excuse me. And so he convinced me, and sure enough, that following week, I was on a flight, like the day after
Damn.
our high school graduation.
That's a quick turnaround, jeez.
Yeah. If I were a new backpacker, I don't think I ever could have done that because I was in physical shape at the time and I had all the gear that I needed.
Right.
So I was lucky. But yeah, I flew up there and, unbeknownst to me, that's a very, very famous trail. So.
Dude, that's so funny. You didn't even know that much about it, which honestly, I don't know if you're the same way, but when I'm planning to do a trail, I research the shit out of it. Not just the things that I need to know, but everything, right?
Everything, watch everybody's video,
exactly,
go through every gear list.
Every single blog post, everything. And so
same way.
I just find that fascinating that you within a week, it sounds like, if I got that correct, you pretty much went from not even knowing what this trail was to literally being on a flight up to Vermont to fucking to do that. That's so incredible, man.
Dude, that's the opposite of who I am. I'm exactly like you just described. So I'm trying to be a free spirit, man. Give those vibes.
Vermont's a good place to do that. So
yeah, it's fun.
Dude, that's crazy. So I don't know. I guess you probably didn't really have that much time to build any expectations then, huh?
No, I told my mom, and I'm really close to my mom, and I talk to her every day. And so I was like, hey, Mom, I think I'm going to fly up to Vermont, in a couple days and hike the Vermont Long Trail.
I bet nobody from Kentucky has ever heard anybody say that before.
No. It may be just my family. I don't know. Maybe everybody's heard of it. I live in a bubble. So but anyway, she done more research than I did, and she texted me and she sent me pictures and stuff, and she was like, "Oh, honey, you're not doing that, are you?" And she's like, "That's dangerous. Do you see that ladder?
She sent you the ladders on Mansfield or something."
Yes. And Mansfield, going down, if you're going northbound, I mean, we could talk more about it later and get in depth, but there's some sketchy spots.
Yeah, dude. So, yeah, going down the chin there, near Taft Lodge, that's definitely
both sides. Both sides have some sketchy stuff.
That's so funny. Dude, that's crazy. So I didn't really prepare many questions here because I'm trying to do these podcasts more kind of off the cuff, I guess. But
oh, good deal, dude.
The fact that you didn't really have time to plan and have any expectations, I feel like that's gonna make this a little bit harder, because I was going to ask, why did you decide to go northbound and do all these things? But it sounds like your buddy was just hey, let's go hike the Long Trail. And you were like, what's that? Well, okay. Fuck it.
It clicked with me. Once I bought Gut Hook, that was the moment where it became a surreal moment. And I was like, oh crap, I'm actually doing this. And I booked the flight, and then I wasn't freaking out so much because I'm so type A and, very organized. And, if I shoot a video, I'm going to write out different bullet points and use those as topics to talk about. And I'm the same way with backpacking. I want to have some idea of some place I could sleep or where the water is and that kind of stuff. You want to be safe. And so once I bought Gut Hook, that section of the trail, and if you're listening, you don't know what Gut Hook is, it's basically an app that has a bunch of different long distance trails, and it's got a bunch of information that'll help you, shelters, water, places to resupply, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I bought it and I started looking at it, and I actually wanted him to go southbound, believe it or not. And he was like, "Nah, dude, we need to go northbound." I was like, "We need to go southbound, man. It's a 4-hour drive from the top to the bottom, and I got to get back to your place in Boston so we can go to the airport." And so he was like, excuse me, he was like, "Nah, we'll figure it out, man." And
that's such a through hiker.
I know. But I only was with him for 3 days. He left. Or we split up. I was hiking faster than him because I had a deadline to be back by.
Oh, okay.
That I did miss. By the way, spoiler alert. So 2 deadlines.
I have to ask about that. Make a note of that.
Yeah, ask about that later. It's a good story. So anyway, that was the plan. I wanted to go southbound and get back by that deadline. And he said, "Let's go northbound." And I said, okay, man, we can, but, we got to hike this distance on average. And, it's going to be more, it's going to be less. The beginning's a little bit easier than, once you split off the AT and start getting more rugged and less maintained and stuff, which is fine. But I was just trying to cram in miles. And then I think the first day we hiked the approach trail. We hiked Pine Cobble.
Yep.
And that was a mistake. And then we got to
pretty steep, yeah.
yeah. Then we got to the first shelter, and it was 3 or 4 miles in, and I was like, dude, we've already hiked 6 or 7 miles, and we've only been, a few miles on the actual trail today. And so we camped, and then the next day I think we hiked to the very, very next shelter. And I was like, dude, we're not going to make it. Like, I have to be back, man. I got to be back. And then, I met a trail family. We all became, family. We call ourselves the Brunch Club, and he was part of it. And then we kind of split, and he started doing less miles, and he didn't have a deadline. And then I think he made it to, 4 or 5, maybe 6 days in, and then we were ahead of him. We were already at the end at Long Trail, and so I think he was in Manchester, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm going to have to head out." And I was like, "All right, man, be blessed." And so I continued on.
How did you get back? So if you finished it at Canada,
yeah.
How did you get back? So did you go from there back to Boston to fly back?
Well, yeah. The short story is I flew out of Providence.
Okay.
But that's not the full story.
Oh boy! All right, what's the full story then?
Well, I'll try to keep it short so you can keep rolling. But
it's all good, man. I don't have any questions, like I said. So.
All right, free form.
That's right.
So I met the Brunch Club, and so there was me, Yosemite Sam, there was Doc, there was Nurse, there was Birdie, and there was Caveman, and there was Dragon, and there were the clean ones, and there's Frodo. There's a bunch of us.
Jesus Christ!
I know. We were like the bubble. So anyway, some left, some stayed on, some left and come back. But the core that finished together was 5 of us. And so Birdie and Caveman were childhood friends. And this was Birdie's first ever backpacking trip. He had never been overnight backpacking. And he was doing the Long Trail with Caveman, who had completed the AT the previous year.
Okay.
So he helped him set up everything, get all of his gear. And then once we finished, they were both from Massachusetts, so they were fairly close. I mean, Massachusetts isn't huge.
No.
So we were close to where I wanted to fly out of. So I didn't want to book the flight until the last minute because I literally did not know what day I was going to finish the trail.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted to be back by this deadline. So we got a couple of days from the Canadian border, and we decided, hey, here's when we're going to finish, and let's get back to sleep somewhere on this night, X night. And so I climbed up this fire tower and booked my flight. And then I was like, oh crap. I was shopping around for flights, and the cheapest one was the same flight that I had taken from Nashville to Providence, except this was going back. Mm-hmm. And so after I booked it, I was like, now I got to figure out how to get to that airport by 10 a.m. on that day. And so I started looking at rental cars, and to get a rental car from where we finished, tiny little town, what's it called? The closest place to hitchhike
North
to.
Troy, I think.
Yeah, Troy. So North Troy, there's no rental place there. So I was like, maybe I can hitch somewhere else and get a rental car. And then I seen how much it cost to drop it off somewhere else. For one way, for like 6 hours worth of driving was $185. I was like, that's more than I paid for the flight there and back.
Welcome to Vermont, dude.
I know. I was like, nah, I'm good. So Birdie's dad, God bless him, we probably hadn't showered for 10 days. His dad drove up there, straight shot from their house. It's like a 5-hour drive. Picked us up. We got to Journey's End, that road, and we were trying to hitch into town, and nobody's driving on that road except for one guy, and he had enough room to take like 3 of us at a time. Yeah. So he took a few of them into town. Birdie's dad, after he picked up Birdie in town, he drove back and picked us up, and so he we rode all the way back. I was like, dude, you want to roll that window up? It's a little bit cold. And he's like, no, man, y'all stink. So we got back, and Birdie's mom, I felt so bad. She wouldn't let me into the house. Like, she made me stand in the garage because I stank so bad. And she was like, I'm sorry. I was like, she was like, I'm just not used to it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And so I got to take a shower and actually made my flight back, but still missed the deadline. Even though I made the flight back the right day.
That's a tough place to get back from because it's
hard.
literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, for anybody who's never done the long trail, like it's I'm talking like a couple miles on a dirt road, and then like even before that, like even before you get on the dirt road, it's still just like super, super rural. And the closest town, like you said, North Troy, is literally like a gas station and a post office pretty much. I mean, yeah. you're like way the fuck up there. So I'm always curious to hear how people like get back. When I did it as a through hike, we dropped my car off at Journey's End, and then my friend's father, God bless him, drove us all the way from Journey's End back down to North Adams to start. And I didn't really think about this at the time, but like a couple days into the hike, my friend was like, is your car gonna start when we get up there? Because I had like a super like old like shitty car at the time, and he's like, you unplugged the battery and stuff, right? And I was like, what? Like I don't know anything about cars, like, so that didn't even cross my mind. I was like, no, like why? Like I don't know. And so once we finished, I was like praying that my car was gonna start. And if it was winter, there's absolutely no way it would have, because it always had problems during the winter. But like I turned it, and like it did its thing for a couple seconds, and then it fired up, and just like weight off my shoulders. It was like I took my pack off. I was like, oh fuck, thank God. Anyways, dude, that's so funny.
Let me tell you what killed me. So we hiked with these two girls that they kind of jumped in on the brunch club and, became part of our trail family, and we called them the clean ones. And they had a change of clothes. Never wore the same set of clothing 2 days in a row the entire long trail.
Damn.
Yeah. And their family's from Massachusetts, and every few days they would drive up and drive them and hike in to the shelter or wherever and meet them if there wasn't a road crossing.
Dude, people do weird shit like that on the long trail, because it's like, I don't know.
That's fine if they want to do that, hike your own hike, but they had a change of clothes every day, and both the girls' moms were at the obelisk, there at the Canadian border. Mm-hmm. It's split, and they have it all mown down and stuff. And so I got there, and I was like, I could hear them celebrating. They were a little bit ahead of me, like 5-10 minutes. And so I turn on, like, jump around, and I was like jumping across the finish line and celebrating. And their moms brought them champagne and Long Trail ale. And so I was like, they would have made our life a lot easier if they hadn't have left, because they just left. And so we had to hitch back into town.
Oh, damn.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's still worked out. Another fun fact, we're just like trading stories now. I love it. I don't know if I ever told this story on the show before. If I did, it was like a long time ago, because dude, like I said, I love this trail, and like I know so much about it. It's like how I learned to hike pretty much on this trail when I was a kid. And like I haven't done an episode about it since episode number 2 of Trail Tales. This is 58. Like, this was like over a year. Anyways, so I don't know if I've told this story. But my first beer ever in my entire life, sorry mom, was the day that, or the moment I finished the long trail the first time, a section hike, when I was in high school. And it was a long trail ale at the Canadian border, like right when we finished. Which is,
what better place?
I know, dude. It tasted disgusting. It was like, first of all, it was my first beer ever, and it was warm, and it kind of blew up a little bit when I opened it too. I don't know, my friend had like stolen it from his parents or whatever, but that I just had to get that story in there, dude. Like,
that's awesome though.
What section of the and I'll let you define what exactly a section means, but like, what stretch of trail did you enjoy the most? Because I mean, especially the northern part of this trail, and maybe again it's just because I live here. Like, I live, in Burlington, so I'm close to the northern part. But I think, dude, it's so epic. I mean, coming from like an AT through hike perspective, I feel like the northern part of the long trail, especially, is like more scenic and more fun than like 90% of the AT or 80% of the AT. So I don't know. Yeah, what was your favorite stretch of trail?
I'll tell you what it wasn't. The AT section. I got injured on that part.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, but recouped. I don't know. It first splits off, and then just seemed like an entire day, I just got smacked in the face by limbs, like they hadn't been trimmed back. I talked to one guy as we were summiting one of the 4,000 footers. I don't even remember which one it was. And I was like, so you all maintain that section? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, man, maybe you haven't for the past 4 years, because
shots fired.
But
so good.
I would say Mansfield was pretty lit. Getting up there and had a little trail magic. A section is like, if you break it off into pieces, there's like different geologies kind of per part, and some have more views and some have more climbs. So I don't know the technical way to define it. I think it really wasn't the trail that made the trip for me. It was the people. So
interesting. Yeah,
I loved the whole thing, and I feel like it would have been a different experience if I hadn't have met the family that I did.
So so when you listed all those names, a few minutes ago, were they all long trail hikers, or were some of them like AT hikers? So you kind of met them on the AT portion.
No, we all were long trail hikers.
Damn,
it's
dude,
weird.
that's a lot, man. Because I said, I did it in 2016, and I went end of July into the beginning of August. So it was like, I feel like, maybe the fall is a little bit more popular, but that's still a pretty, heavily trafficked time of year for that trail.
Mm-hmm.
And, we saw a lot of people, but I did not meet that many long trail hikers, let alone like at the same time in like the same group. So I wonder if even since, 2016, more and more people are starting to hike this trail.
Man, I think it was an anomaly. Like, I can give you the Reader's Digest on how we met if you want.
Yeah, dude, let's hear it.
So Frankie and I started, and we were a day, I believe, ahead, or maybe in 2 days ahead of Doc and Nurse. They live up in Michigan, and they were a couple days behind us, but where we were doing 6 mile days for the first few days, we hadn't seen them yet. And then Birdie and Caveman were ahead of us, but they took multiple zeros at like the first resupply. I don't remember what the name of the town is. Do you?
Manchester?
Yeah, Manchester. I believe that's it.
Or Bennington, maybe?
What's the other one?
Bennington?
No, I think it was... No, yeah, I bet it was Bennington.
I don't know.
Anyway, regardless, the first place that we resupplied, I think that Caveman, I had already met Doc and Nurse at this point, and Frankie, we were all still together. Mm-hmm. And I think that they were taking multiple zeros, and we actually caught up to them. And then Frankie split off. And so then it was me and Doc and Nurse and Dragon. Dragon actually lives in Vermont as well. And if you're in the Facebook group, the Long Trail Facebook group, mm-hmm. You may have met him. His name's Nathan. But we met him the same place I met Doc and Nurse. And then we finally caught up to Caveman and Birdie. And I called him Old No Name because he didn't have a trail name yet. And then we started calling him Birdie because he slept in every single day.
I feel like No Name would have been a pretty good trail name too.
He wouldn't take it. Man.
Oh, so you tried. That's funny.
Yeah, I tried. I just thought it was kind of funny. But anyway, yeah. So that's the Reader's Digest on how we met. And then later on, you know how you sign the trail journals?
Oh, yeah.
So if anybody's listening, they don't know about the trail journals. At most of the shelters, there's just like a log, just a notebook. And so you can draw a picture, you can write a story, you can just sign your name, whatever, basically a creative outlet and let you meet people and kind of update people that are behind you or leave a message for somebody. And so we kept signing Brunch Club, and sometimes we'd sign everybody's trail name, and then we'd maybe throw a crazy story in there that happened to us. And so we had to take multiple zeros at the end at Long Trail, which was freaking awesome. By the way,
I've actually never. I mean, I've hiked through there now like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, 4 times, because 2 times on Long Trail, 1 time in the AT, and then just another section I did. And I've never freaking stopped there before, but I've heard so many. I mean, to be fair, I was like kind of on I was also in high school the first time, and then just money the other times. But like, I've heard such good things about this place. It looks so cool.
They have built-in bar and restaurant there, and it's like, you know, an inn, and they will give you a traditional Guinness Irish pour 15 minutes. When you order it, it comes to you like 16 minutes later because they don't pour out any of the head on it.
Oh, Jesus
so,
Christ.
Anyway, that's a side thing. So anyway, we had to take multiple zeros there because I was hurt. And then we had to take another zero because Doc got poisoned in one place where we were resupplying because there were shellfish in his chorizo, of all things.
Oh, that sucks.
That's a whole nother crazy story. But had some trail angels, and it turned out awesome. But anyway, once we caught the clean ones, they were like, you know, we leapfrogged you while you were taking a zero. We must have, because this entire time we saw in the journals that there's like a group of 9 people ahead of us, and we're like, we got to catch those people. That's so awesome. And then there's a couple more guys, and it's like a legend, you know. It's like somebody's in front of you, and you're like, man, they're having such a great time. And in reality, I mean, it's hard, but you're still having a good time. Yeah. And so there's a couple of other guys where me and Birdie and Caveman were sitting in a ski hut waiting out a rainstorm. It's like 40 degrees outside, and these 2 guys come in, and man, I can't remember their names, but they were like, so what's your all's name? And we told them. They're like, y'all are the brunch club. And they're like, the legend lives. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? And they're like, we've been reading all these trail journals. We've been trying to catch you guys. So I think that I was just really blessed and lucky that I met, you know, such a great group of people, and that we all like meshed so well together. Because I don't think that's most people's experience. I wish it was.
And it's tough on the long trail because it's even, I mean, you know, 273 or whatever miles is a lot of miles, don't get me wrong, but it's like just not quite enough, I feel like, for most people to have that experience of forming like a bigger group. I'm sure, you know, you'll meet a couple people, and that's kind of what happened to me when I did it, but it's not like or usually not like the AT. Obviously there's exceptions because we're literally talking about one right now, but where you can like form these like bigger, people say tramline, and I hate that term. That makes me cringe every time I hear it. I actually was kind of making fun of that in a video I was shooting today, but anyways, you know, you just don't really have time usually to form these like groups of people and stuff. So that's cool, honestly. I'm glad to hear that you had that experience. And then obviously or I shouldn't say obviously, did that make it easier when you guys were in town too? Were you able to like split rooms and do things like that?
Yeah, poor Dragon. So his wife had to pick him up a couple of times because his feet swelled up so much that they wouldn't fit in his shoes. He had to take his inserts out, and the top layer of skin on the top of his toes was completely gone, and he was wrapping them up, and he was trying to get back to trail and complete it, and he couldn't complete it with us. But anyway, at one point he already had a hotel room, and we were hiking into resupply, and I forgot Juicy was in there too. Haven't even mentioned her. She was part of the trail family. I know you cringe, but you do become like family with these people.
Well, see, trail family it's okay. It's tramly.
It's the abbreviation.
Tramly. It's like that's it really gets me.
So yeah,
it's all good.
It is nice to be able to have your own room, but it's also nice paying half the amount that you were going to pay. So that was good. It did make it harder. If you're trying to hitchhike with 9 people, it's pretty much impossible. So my strategy was, this is a little bit selfish, but I would like hang back. I'd be like, hey dude, you want to walk with me? I got to get something from the store real quick. And so you're walking toward whatever part of the trail you crossed the road at and resupplied. So you can hitch back to that same place and restart where you left off. So you're not, yellow blazing, which is skipping trail via vehicle. And so I get somebody with me and I'll be like, all right, man, give them a couple minutes and then we'll walk probably a quarter of a mile behind them. We'll still be able to see them, but we'll hitchhike and then the cars will see us first. And then we'll meet them at the trail end.
Smart, dude. That's so funny. Like we on the AT, we even with like 3 or 4 people, sometimes it would like be kind of difficult. 3 is manageable. 4 is really pushing it. We did do it a couple times, but it had to be a pickup truck basically at that point.
Yeah.
So like we just honestly ended up hitching like by ourselves a lot of the time. Like just whoever got to the trailhead first, they just start hitching. Like don't even you just meet up in town or whatever. One funny thing, I think I might have told this story on a previous episode. I honestly can't remember. I've done way too many of these at this point, but it was me and like I think 2 other guys. We were hitching out of a town called Rangeley, Maine, and there was another group. My friend Baker Bocorny, who's he's been on the show a bunch of times, and he was with his at the time fiance. I think they were engaged at that point, now married, and it was like them versus us, like competing for the hitch. And it wasn't like we were up the road like a ways, like we were literally like 50 yards apart.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, and it was, we were like staring each other down. It was so funny because I mean we were all friends and stuff, but I thought for sure that they were gonna win because like first of all less people, second of all like you know like Baker talked about this on our last episode. Like his wife Jessica, she's like very small and just like kind of cute and like harmless, right? So I was like, they're definitely gonna like get exactly. Like they're definitely gonna get it first. But we fucking won somehow. Like I don't even know. Like this truck just like scooped us up real quick. But while we're talking about like hitchhiking and resupplies and stuff, I'm always curious to hear how people do the resupply on the long trail because I've heard of a lot of people, usually not as experienced hikers, doing like mail drops on the long trail, and I just feel like that is, in my opinion, I feel like that's not necessary at all on this trail because the towns are so accessible and there's so many. So I'm just curious, like, you know, if you remember, even where did you resupply? We got Manchester and Rutland, or you know, in that long trail, like that Route 4 area. Beyond that, going north from there, do you remember which towns you stopped in?
I don't remember, but I have my phone in front of me. I mean, nobody can see
like the area of the trail, because I'll be able to tell you like the towns and stuff.
So for resupplies, I know we hit Rutland, and man, I can't tell you the exact towns. I think Bennington and
Waitsfield,
Manchester. We skipped one that was really popular. And there was a couple times where we just stopped and like had somebody to hitchhike in and get something that we were craving. Like one time we got pizza.
Oh, nice.
But, you know, if you want to talk about, is it necessary to actually do the mail drops, I can talk about that. But
yeah, dude, go for it.
I don't think I can tell you the exact places. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's the Vermont like nerd in me being like, oh my god, he visited like Johnson. Like,
I'll write it down and get it back to you.
That's okay, dude.
So it was different. You know, being with a number of different people, you saw different strategies. And so my strategy was bring as little as you can, but be comfortable and don't do any mail drops and just resupply in town. And always buy way too much food. That's exactly what I did. And so I'd leave town, my backpack would be 40 pounds. And then I would be like, man, it really sucks climbing up this mountain from the road today. But once I eat this 6 pounds of chocolate, my load will be a little lighter. And so we'd like carry up a couple beers and stuff like that too. Then you had to pack the cans. And it's heavy. So one person in our group, Dragon in particular, planned it out to the T. He had like refills of vegetable oil, and he had all freeze-dried food. No, nothing, dehydrated. It was all freeze-dried. And so, whenever we would get to a resupply, he had a drop either that was mailed or was dropped off at a hospital or something like that. And so he would always have like food left over, and I'd be like, hey man, you gonna drink that like Gatorade mix or you gonna eat that spicy chicken taco?
Sounds good.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. I mean, to each their own, but that just seems like way too much work.
Yeah.
Like to plan everything out, and it kind of takes away, in my opinion, for me, it takes away some of the adventure, because I don't want to have a like set deadline for every single location. Like I'm okay with, I got to finish by this date, but let it be an adventure.
Exactly. And obviously there's a lot of trails out there where you just have to do resupplies, you have to do, you have to do resupplies for every trail, but mail drops.
You may have to do.
Yeah. And
like cache water or anything. Some trails are like that.
Yeah, dude. But I just feel like with the long trail, there's kind of a misconception. And again, I feel like it's just because often, not always, but often it's people that just don't have as much experience. And so they don't really realize this. If anybody listening to this is thinking about doing the long trail, I think I'm going to post this in like the long trail Facebook group. So if anybody out there is like a prospective long trail hiker, you really don't need to do the mail drop things. There's the mail drop thing. There's plenty of towns along the way, and you can always reach out to me because obviously I like to talk about obscure Vermont towns that you can buy food in and stuff. So no, dude, it's all good, man. It's all good. Where should we go? Where should we go next, dude? I feel like we've hit a lot, but we got a little bit more time before we get into a story. Actually, so do you have a story for the end still? Or let me clarify that. Were you planning on telling that not making your deadline story as like the trail end story, or do you have like another story for that? Because if not, I want to get into what happened with your deadline there.
Yeah, I can do that as my final story if you want. It's pretty funny.
All right. So we'll save that for just a second.
Okay.
Did you stay in any of the shelters along the way? Because that's another thing about this trail. Obviously a lot of people like to just stay in their tent or hammock or whatever, but the shelters, especially on the northern part of the long trail, are freaking awesome, dude. Like, oh my gosh, and it's like a little cabin, dude. It's amazing, and again, I'm generally like the person that's gonna stay in my hammock even if there's a shelter space open. But like some of these, like Taft Lodge is amazing. Butler Lodge is amazing. Tillotson Camp, Corliss Camp, J Camp. Dude, I'm telling you, I know this trail, so I can literally name like every single shelter. Like they're awesome. Did you get a chance to stay in any of those structures?
Yeah. This is gonna be weird, man. You're gonna be like, wow, I don't believe that. You know how many times I slept in my tent?
Well, if we're going weird, 0? 1. Yeah,
the second night.
Damn, man, that's crazy.
I can't remember the name of the shelter, but this is at the beginning. It's on the AT, and every single they're like bunk beds in there, and they were really short too. And every one of them was like on a side incline. Like not only was your head or feet going to be higher, but also one side, like you were guaranteed to roll. And so I was like, I'm not going to sleep in there. But every other single night, I slept in a shelter on the trail. Every one of them.
Damn,
I'll tell you why. The people that I had met, I just wanted to keep hanging out with them, and they wanted to keep hanging out with me and each other. And so we decided, it's raining. We don't want to set up. I had a duplex, a Z-Pax duplex that I borrowed off of a friend, and we had a couple people that were hammock camping, and then we had another couple that had a duplex, and I think somebody else had a one-person tent or something. And so the Clevelands actually didn't even bring a shelter. They had no choice. I was like, I don't know about that, guys, but they made it the whole way. And anyway, I got a cool thing about Butler I'd like to tell you about.
Yeah, man, I love that place. For every time I passed that when I was like backpacking, I've like day hiked to it a bunch because that's like literally right pretty much in the town I grew up in, like super, super close. But yeah, anyways, before I go down this nostalgic route.
Oh, dude, I loved it. But I want to make sure it's the right shelter that I'm talking about. So once you summit Mansfield and then you come off the other side, is it the first shelter?
So that you're thinking of a Taft, which I've also been to a million times too. Taft Lodge, like right after the super, yeah, dude, right after the super sketchy climb down off the top of Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what I want to talk about. I think I went to Butler too, and if I remember right, that one may have been the one where there's sheets hanging up around the bed. Or at least when I was there, somebody stays there during the busy month.
Yeah.
So that caretaker put up sheets around their bed to block out because they didn't have their own little loft or whatever. Is that Butler?
I don't recall the sheets, but I do know there's like a designated caretaker spot in that shelter. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like it is.
Taft. So Taft. Man, I can't remember the guy's name, but he played trumpet. I remember that. He was on top of Mansfield. After you summit it, and there's the Welcome Center up there.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, it was probably 65 degrees that day or 70 degrees. It was a warmer day. And he's talking about, hey, man, I got some tea and coffee and that kind of stuff in here. Do y'all want to hang out for a minute and, have a glass and just chill and charge your devices or whatever? And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, man, absolutely. He's like, I think we only got maybe one outlet that works, and, we really don't advertise it, but since y'all are coming in and chilling for a minute, you can charge your phone up or whatever. And so we did. And then I talked to him for probably 45 minutes as we juiced up. And he was wearing Chacos. He's hiking in Chacos. And I was like, kudos to you, man, because I would be blistered up. That doesn't seem very comfortable. And I know we'll get a lot of hate for saying that probably. So he was the caretaker of Taft, and I didn't know it. And I had talked to him, and then he got down there, and Caveman, for 1,000 miles on the AT, he had carried a child-sized guitar that he had bought at like a flea market or pawn shop or something, wrapped it up in a trash bag and strapped it to the outside of his pack. And I play guitar, Birdie plays guitar, Caveman plays guitar, and he got down, the caretaker, trumpet guy, which I don't remember his name, I'm sorry.
Trumpet guy sounds like a good trail name, so we can go with that.
Yeah. He got down there, and sure enough, in one of those block chests inside the shelter, he pulled out a full-size guitar.
Damn.
And I said, no way. We've been this entire time. And you can jam a little bit if you got a guitar. But that child-sized guitar, it got out of tune really fast. And anyway, with two guitars, you can play rhythm and you can play lead. And
damn.
I remember Caveman and Birdie, even the next day, they stayed after. I was like, guys, it's 10 o'clock. We needed to put in like 16 miles today. Y'all ready to head out? We were the last three. And they're like, no, we're going to stay a little while longer. We'll catch up. We're going to play a little guitar. And so into the night, even while people were going to sleep, they were playing. And I was like, I think I'm going to go to sleep. And they're like, okay. I was like, I guess I'm going to put in these earplugs. And they're like, okay. They kept playing. So they
crazy.
stayed after and played. And, man, it was super cool. Those shelters are like none other because AT is mostly three-sided.
Yeah.
But up there, man, I was just really impressed.
It's unreal. The Green Mountain Club does an amazing job.
Phenomenal.
Dude, let's go into one more story here. So I want to hear what happened with your deadline, or I guess what didn't happen with your deadline.
Okay. So the deadline was like June the 14th maybe. And my dad he had a doctor's appointment. He had like this thing that come up on his face, and he was supposed to have like an outpatient surgery and get it removed. And then on the 16th, that was on the 16th. The 18th was my wife and I's anniversary, June the 18th. Ooh. And then June the 20th was her birthday. And so I remember the time was starting to close in, and I kept telling, my friends, guys, we got to keep pushing. I got to get out of here. I want to stay with you guys, but we're taking so many zeros. I got to hit this deadline. And so, I got the flight and was actually going to be able to make it to my anniversary. And I hadn't seen my wife in a month. And are you married?
No.
Okay.
I'm only 23. I got some time.
You're just a baby. So, anyway, if you haven't seen your significant other in a month, it's hard. So I wanted to get home and spend time with my family, and I wanted to make it to my dad's surgery. Well, a couple of days before the surgery, my mom texted me, and she was like, hey, it's just an outpatient, or it's just a consultation. They're not actually doing anything. And I was like, okay, well, that gives me actually a couple extra days. And so I booked the flight and was able to make it to Nashville on June 18th. And I think the flight touched down at 4 or 5 p.m. Central Time. So I was going to lose an hour driving home, and it was a 3-hour drive. Mm-hmm. So I was like, man, I'm going to cut it close. So I ate a quick dinner with a buddy that picked me up and took me to my truck. And I was headed out. And you can't make this stuff up, man. I'm heading out of Nashville, and my truck just smoke starts rolling from under the engine. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So there's traffic everywhere. The truck's starting to overheat. And so I just whip it in, and I parked right in front of a sex shop. And I shut the truck off, and I called my buddy, and I was like, hey man, I'm broke down, in front of this shop, and I need you to come and help me fix this. And he's like, well, what's wrong with it? And I was like, dude, I got no idea. It just started smoking on me. And so at this point, it was like 6:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm going to lose 3 hours driving home at least. And so I pop the hood and I look, and I see that there's like 2 hoses that are just completely dry rotted in two, because my truck's a 97 Ford Ranger. And so I'm okay with vehicles. I know enough to be dangerous. So I was like, I think I can fix this. So I started looking at a couple of YouTube videos. My buddy, he's like, dude, it's going to be a minute. I was a mile into a jog. I got to jog back to my house and drive over there. So he took me to an O'Reilly's, and I had enough tools in my truck to take off the part that the hose is hooked to that was dry rotted, and replace it and cut them off and just kind of stick them back together and clamp them down,
Mm-hmm.
and then refill it with antifreeze, and was able to drive it home. But unfortunately, I'm still married, so I guess it turned out okay. I made it back after midnight. It was like 1:30 a.m.
Oh, damn.
And so I missed the surgery appointment. I missed the anniversary, but I still made it for the birthday.
Was she pissed?
Yeah, dude, she was dying. But it's okay now.
It worked out. Damn, dude. That's so funny. I think we're gonna kind of wrap it up here, man. Like, we're at about an hour. That was a lot of fun. I haven't laughed this much in a long time on one of these episodes. So yeah, dude, that was sweet. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you go ahead and plug your YouTube and any social media, just where people can go and
Sure.
find you.
Main thing is YouTube. Do backpacking videos, Jeremiah Stringer Hikes. And then it's the same Instagram, Jeremiah Stringer Hikes, and Facebook group.
Cool, man. I'll have a link to all that stuff in the show notes as usual. And with that said, I think that's gonna do it. Thanks for listening, everybody. And have a good one.